I have been told that you have converted to Buddhism. Now, how did this religious development come about?
I've been practicing 10 years in Buddhism. When I started, it was just being introduced for 2 years. So that was like 12 years ago that it started in California. And there was a girl working at the recording studio that was talking about it, and she told me about it, and I decided to test it to see, because my religion was Baptist, and which was given to me by my parents because they were basically Baptist background. But this was one I made the decision for, because it's like after becoming a woman, your views and things are different. So I liked, how do you call the scientific view as for my life. It made sense to me. It taught me something different that Baptists had not taught, so that was comfortable for me, and I started practicing.
Would you say that this religion now is the most important factor in your life?
A part of my life. It has become a part of my way of thinking, a part of how I live, and from that practice I'm becoming happy.
Mm-hmm. How does it affect your daily life?
A way of thinking, less stress, blame. Like, I think if I read this book, I wouldn't become angry at this person, because I have a different view of how the life goes now and what would obviously be happening with these two people's lives. Maybe there was something that had to be lived through, so to speak. It's another entirely way of thinking and living from as the Oriental view. I mean, it came from the Orient. So sometimes we just think our world is the only one and this is the only way of thinking, but there are other people in the world that have other concepts of life. And so there's a world that believe this way, part of the world, and it made sense to me, so I started to practice.
You partook in Band Aid and Live Aid for Africa in 1985. Has this movement, do you think, altered the attitudes towards rock artists?
I thought for many years, because I never did drugs, I never drank, and I never smoked. And I've always thought that people put rock and roll people down simply because of the reputation of other people. In other words, it was like rock and roll people aren't intelligent, they're not real people, or good people, or whatever, And I think that got the people to stand up and listen and say, hey, these are people that pack halls, football stadiums. These are people that are successful. And there are people that like what these people do. And then when that happened, then all of a sudden they said, well, maybe there is a possibility that these people are all right. Cruel, but that's the world and that's the life. I always knew that there were a lot of good people in rock and roll music. I'm in rock and roll music, I've been there forever. There are a lot of wonderful people, but they are not classical singers. They're not, they're rock and roll, they're free music loving people, and they live their life a bit more freely. So I think that's why it was basically put down. I think more and more now, a lot of the people are coming out of themselves to make that kind of statement. I certainly have, by writing the book and saying, well, here I am, I'm a rock and roll person. I'm respectable. You don't think so, but I think I am. And I haven't done anything that I feel is disrespectful. So more and more people are getting a little bit of a different view because of that, and the rock and roll people are feeling a little bit more freer to show that they do have the tenacity to make some statement